I was first arrested, I told them I got drugged and raped, but they refused to bring me to a doctor. Instead, when I got here to Union County Jail, I was stripped completely naked, then put in a green woman's dress and taunted with how I was raped. They've consistently taunted me with reminders of that rape and threats of future rape almost every day since. They started to wake me up every couple hours so that I was sleep deprived. And when I was half awake, they'd start to do something called anchoring. Anchoring is like when a dog hears a bell ringing. Every time food is served, he associates the bell with food, and his body physically responds to the sound of the bell by salivating. Only with me, half asleep and in a dress, they talk outside the door, describing prison gang rape scenarios and jingling their keys every time they'd say a really brutal part so that I'd be reminded of rape whenever the keys were jingling. I don't think you realize how often a prisoner hears keys jingle in the course of a day. The guards wear the keys on their belt, so it's very constant. They had other anchors too. They would describe hopeless scenarios of complete abandonment and despair, and anchor those to the words life, and pen, and paper, which made it really hard to write letters about how my life was going to people who mattered. The most insidious anchor they did was to anchor descriptions of how some third parties committed suicide to the phrases hang up, check out, and hang in there. That contributed to my suicide attempt because I'd hang up the phone and go to the cell to use my pen and paper to reply to people who checked out my video and told me to hang in there. A sergeant pointed his loaded gun at my chest when I was in the hospital after attempting suicide and threatened me. After my second suicide attempt, they put me in a woman's dress for a full month and completely denied me phone calls, letters, and books while making sure I didn't sleep more than 2 hours at a time. The lights were always on. This time, when they half waked me, and as I was half asleep, they'd say the words relax and get comfortable as part of regular conversation, but with special stress on the words. Then, have a conversation just outside the door that on the surface was about a third party, but they'd repetitively plant post-hypnotic suggestions of guilt and bad character by stressing words like psychopath, sociopath, murderer, child molester, liar, guilty, serial killer, rapist, crazy, and so on, over and over, and constantly saying, can you believe that? Or, could you imagine doing that? They'd be really blatant sometimes, and just say to me when they thought I was asleep, no one's going to believe you. You never got raped. You're going to die getting gang raped in prison. And even saying, you damn well know you're guilty, so fess up. Then they'd wake me up and generalize my feelings into a future projection by asking a series of questions like, you ordering commissary this week? When's your next court date? You looking forward to selling your ass for commissary in prison? They pretend to be sympathetic, and then suddenly threaten me and insult me to condition me to be scared or hostile to sympathy. They'd say bizarre things to me, like a guard once said, fuck me in the ass, and when I'd question them what they meant, they'd get hostile and deny saying it. This had the effect of causing me to doubt my memories so that they could suggest false memories to me when I was trying to sleep. And this also had the effect of fear conditioning me against being skeptical or questioning them. When I was in that cell, they convinced me I had died and gone to hell to try to elicit a false confession from me. There was no mirror in there, just a toilet, sink, and sleeping mat, and they convinced me I looked deformed, stupid, and weak. If they ever noticed I was masturbating, they'd stand at the door and say words like child, school, and playground to try to make me associate that with sex. After I got regular prison clothes back, after a month of intense brainwashing in the green dress, they started alternating being nice and being violent. They would start conversations about what it was like in school for me and constantly say, "You're just a kid," in a paternal voice with false compassion and cause age regression. Then try to elicit false confessions from me. For 20 months, I was in that 8 by 12-foot cell, which was away from all the other inmates and by the guard station. At all hours, I had to be prepared to hide my head behind my pillow or cover my nuts because they would open the feeding slot and try to hit me in the face or the crotch by violently throwing apples and oranges at me. The worst part of them denying me phone calls and pretending to be parents is that I started dreaming about them and hearing them as parents' voices, calling me a murderer and a liar, even when they weren't saying anything. This was and is hell because I am innocent and I am telling the truth. I watched them beat a man to death in 2014. I watched him die, screaming, "I'm not resisting, please," in the cell across from me. They warned me that's what happens to inmates who don't obey them. I sued the county for civil rights violations anyways, and I was in general population when they found out. They incited an inmate to start a fight against me so that they could pepper spray me, then locked me in a detention cell with no shower. That means I spent the next 24 hours still covered in a substance that was chemically burning me. When I got out of detention in February 2016, they locked me in an 8 by 12-foot cell in med unit in isolation. And with the exception of 2 weeks in August 2016, I've been here since. Over 23 hours a day, no mirror, fed through a slot in the door. That's 19 months on this stretch alone in the same conditions as the SHU unit. Of the 51 months I've been locked up so far without trial, I've been in this med SHU unit for over 40 months. This is only scratching the surface of how I've been mistreated by them. Brainwashing, psychological and physical torture. This is no way to treat an innocent man. This is how they get false confessions and coerced plea deals. This is how they behaviorally condition innocent people to show inappropriate emotional responses to make these innocent people appear guilty in court. I'm going to keep fighting them until I win back my freedom. I hope this video lets you know how much your support means to me. Thank you again for your kindness and for being on the side of truth. I'll talk to you again soon.